All right, excellent. Well, 5:01 p.m., time to get our property committee meeting for the month of August kicked off for Thursday, August 10th, 2023. Thank you all for being here, and it looks like on our roll call, we are missing two members, Member Bloomfield as well as Member Biles. Otherwise, we have enough folks to conduct business. So let's go ahead and continue on to the consent agenda, which is apprised of the approval of the minutes as well as the recommendation of the approval of our bills and transfers, which are in total of $275,730.83. May I have a motion by a member to put this one? All right, we've got a motion by Member Byrne. May I have a second? Second by Member Tompkins. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Continuing on to item number 3 on the agenda, appearance by members of the public or county employees.
We've had no request to speak this evening.
All right, thank you very much, Administrator Taylor. That takes us on to item number 4, City of Bloomington Downtown Streetscape Project. Welcome, Mr. Sewell. I believe you have a presentation for us to learn a little bit more about this exciting project that's coming our way.
Yeah, I do. Do you want me standing up there or sitting here or?
However you're comfortable.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you guys very much. Good evening. Thanks for inviting us. We've got Billy back there. You can't kick me under the table if I say something wrong sitting back there, but, so my name's Mike Sewell. I'm a civil engineer. I'm the project manager for this downtown Bloomington streetscape project. I work with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley. We were selected by the city to help guide them through this project. The reason that we're here is we want to share with you guys some concepts and some ideas specifically related to the Museum Square area. We're not asking, there's nothing getting put to a yes or no vote here. We just really want to, and we're not ready to finalize anything either. This is just a great opportunity for us to get feedback from you guys. Let us know some things maybe we haven't thought about that we need to be thinking about, concerns, suggestions, that sort of thing. So I haven't been to this group before, but it seems like a pretty easygoing group. Is it okay if rather than just me blabbing on and going through the presentation, you guys, I want you to, if it's okay and appropriate, you guys just jump in with questions at any point. Feel free to interrupt me. I think it would be a lot more constructive that way if we just take that approach.
Everybody comfortable with that?
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Okay, I think we can go to the next slide. So these are the things we want to make sure we cover with you guys today. We'll start out just kind of a high level, what is a streetscape project? Where are we at in the process? We'll talk about the schedule. And then we'll get into the fun stuff. We'll start sharing some of the concepts that we've developed. I should point out that although maybe, Cassie, you guys haven't seen some of the more refined drawings, the concepts that we'll be sharing with you guys, we have already actually met with the County of History Museum folks twice. We met with Cassie and Tony and is it Amy?
Kathy, I think, was there.
Kathy, okay, I'm sorry. And definitely, we got some good feedback. I definitely don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but it felt like everything was pretty well received. We feel like we're heading down the right direction. That Cassie suggested this would be a great group to get in front of and explore this further. And then we do have, and then the last thing there, we do want to talk about, here in about a month, we are launching this public outreach campaign. A lot of the stuff so far has just been data gathering, kind of refining some concepts, but not a whole lot has gone public just yet. We really wanted to be respectful to you guys and not, you see out there on social media some drawings and things without giving you guys a chance to see it first and comment on it. So I'll talk a little bit about what that will look like.
One quick question for you. You mentioned data gathering. What kind of data are you gathering?
Oh man, so we have done everything from like data from traffic camera collection. So we kind of the way this was teed up for our firm was just about everything is on the table here. We have these high level objectives that we want to meet, but rather than just doing a fresh coat of paint at downtown, if we need to get into the bones of, you know, for example, what can we do to make downtown a more walkable environment, and talking about maybe lane reduction for roads and things like that. When we start playing around with big stuff like that, we don't just want to, this seems right and let's hope that it works out afterwards. So we've done a lot of traffic modeling and analysis there. Utilities, we've met with a lot of utility companies, and both internal to the city, but then also, you know, Nicor and Frontier and Ameren and all of them. So there's a lot more things like that, but it's been just kind of equipping ourselves so that we don't head down a certain path and regret not talking to somebody that we should have earlier on. Sure. So maybe you guys already know what a streetscape is. At the risk of insulting your intelligence, I'll just talk a little bit about it just to make sure we're all on the same page. So on the right side, this is a flyer from Detroit DOT that I've liked before, and basically streetscaping is the collection of all the sidewalks and pedestrian paths and curb bump outs and landscaping and decorative lighting and all those things that can enhance the pedestrian experience along the streetway. So when you have good streetscaping design, when you have well-maintained streetscaping, good programming for your streetscaping, it really has the opportunity to attract more foot traffic to your downtown, to really spur economic development. That second bullet point, streetscaping is the visual identity of a neighborhood. It's just that sense, if you go visit a city and if you'll either think, boy, this downtown's got problems, or I love coming to this downtown, and the streetscaping is kind of at the heart of that. Go ahead. So we're basically at the implementation phase of what the streetscaping thing has been a long time coming. If you go all the way back to that FAR study in 2013, and there's been a number of other planning documents that have been adopted by the city since then, and all of those have served to, you know, make the decision that the city wants to invest in their downtown and kind of setting the high level objectives for that. And really our challenge has been working with the city to figure out that can look a lot of different ways to accomplish those goals. But we weren't starting from scratch, and so when we go to the public, for example, it's not going to be a blank sheet of just tell us what you want in your downtown. We kind of have a good jumping off point already. Go ahead, please. So these are bullet points that I've pulled from these planning documents. A lot of them are probably familiar to you because they're repeated a lot. We talked a little bit about improving walkability and, of course, improving the aesthetic of downtown through streetscaping. But then especially, you know, relevant to our discussion tonight is enhancing and activating public spaces. Downtown has a lot of assets. What it doesn't have a lot of is open public area. It's kind of a premium. Some downtowns do have more of that. And so the museum square, besides, you know, being a kind of a public open area, it's more than that. It's the centerpiece of downtown. It's the crown jewel of downtown Bloomington, and it's just really hard not to try to leverage that in the things that we're doing. And it just feels frankly a little underutilized, and we have thoughts and ideas on how to activate that space a bit more, which, you know, we'll be sharing later on. Go ahead. So in terms of where we're at in the schedule, and at the top half of this slide here, just kind of broadly breaking our process into 4 phases. You can see we're kind of sitting right between the strategy development phase and the design phase. We have some designs that we're looking at and have refined, but we're really at kind of a critical juncture. We don't want to roll up our sleeves and do too much more doing drawings of different streets downtown and everything until we engage the broader public and until we have conversations like this with you folks in particular. So the key milestones here, just kind of where we're at with some things that are coming up. This, of course, the meeting with you guys tonight, and then, like I said, about a month from now, we'll launch this public outreach campaign that will include, amongst other things, some of the concepts for the museum square. And then what I don't have up here, I'm sure based on our conversation today, there will be, I'm sure we'll be in front of the county board at some point or more conversations with you. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like. It kind of depends on how this goes. But from the city standpoint, the plan is that either late this year or early next year, they would be adopting, hopefully, a streetscaping plan that has designs for every single street in downtown, at least high level concept drawings, and then include like the museum square and some other things like that. Yes.
You mentioned before the data gathering piece and now looking at the public outreach piece. To what level are you engaging the community on feedback on how they would like to access downtown, as well as like the downtown businesses and like that? Are you more so just kind of like giving like general like data consideration and fact finding and kind of putting that out there, or is it really everybody's holding hands together on this one? And
Yes, that's a good question. So we have a steering committee that we put together that's kind of a cross section of downtown business owners, just people in the community, people that have an interest in downtown. They've been helping provide some guidance, sometimes validating directions we're going, sometimes suggesting other things, but that's still kind of a limited subset, right? And we just weren't ready to engage the broader public yet until we had something more to show them. And so there hasn't been a whole lot of that yet. And yeah, when we do, kind of like I said, there are some specific critical design decisions that we need to be informed by them. So we're gonna be asking some specific questions. But like I said, it's also not, it'd be a big setback if we just gave them a total blank slate and said, what did you want here? And because of all those already, the planning reports and things that have already come, there's been a lot of that engagement already.
sure, thank you.
Sure. And then the goal would be, we'll start doing the detailed design of construction documents and permitting and be able to bid the first streetscaping project, whatever that is, and that's to be determined in summer of next year. You guys have any other questions with anything before I move on?
Anxious to see the plan.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so this is just one of several concepts we've done for Main Street, and I because the focus of today is more to Museum Square, I wasn't gonna wade through all of these, but I just wanted to have one to show you, just to kind of illustrate what we're shooting for here. In this instance, it involves doing some things that actually move the curb line in, so you can see that creates new opportunities for outdoor dining, sidewalk sales. It's just, you're increasing the public sphere there basically. And right now downtown is definitely more vehicle centric as opposed to pedestrian centric, and that's one of the goals that we want to kind of flip that around.
So in this rendering, is that center lane there with the arrow there, is this implying one-way vehicle traffic down that middle lane there?
It is, yeah, so, right now on Main Street, you've got 2 lanes of one-way traffic. And, there's only so much real estate from building face to building face, so this is as much as anything kind of a space study of what's the best way of utilizing that. And in this instance, we got rid of one of those lanes of traffic. We did introduce what we're calling a flex lane there, which is primarily for bicycle traffic. We want to invite people into downtown. That is a great biking community. We want to make it easy for them to come down. But also for delivery vehicles and things like that, that can be kind of a problem downtown, the congestion and the confusion and how that works. Does that answer your question? Okay, and then one thing I want to say, not just about this drawing, but all of them that you'll see, these are, try not to get too attached or hung up to the specifics of colors that you see, or this umbrella looks this way. This is really, nothing is set in stone. I really want to emphasize that. And so part of our process of engaging the public will be getting feedback on what they like and what they don't like. Okay, go ahead. Okay, finally, the museum square here. So there's a lot going on in the drawing to the right. I'll kind of direct your attention on the left. That's a historic image there of the museum square and how it used to look. And you can see there's that central ringed sidewalk there up against the building, and then just call them spokes from the wheel that go out. And it really has the purpose of inviting people into that square area there. And, right now, unfortunately, it's just kind of walled off. And you have this sense, if you're in the line, should I really be here? And that's something that we want to change, is really do things to help activate the space and draw people in. And some of the things you'll see here are intended not just, I would characterize it as not just making things better for people that already happen to go downtown, but really trying to draw people from the community. And I mean, one thing I'll show you here later on, just even regionally, we just really want to pull people into downtown, and this will be a great spot to do that. So I'll start, and just to orient you here, so right on the screen here is north, so you can see Jefferson Street there, and then Washington Street on the south. Cassie, has Paul Charnett talked to this group at all about
No.
anything on the south side? Okay, all right. So Charnett Architects, they have been working with the county before I think they even knew that we were coming along to do the things that we were doing, on making some improvements to the entrance on the south side. And Paul has a design that he's been developing, but we've had conversations with them, and I'm not going to share a lot about that because that's better for him to speak about that. But we're confident that we can work together and do things in a way that it doesn't look like, well, he got one thing going on here, but it looks like somebody else designed things on the other side. To really make it work together.
And I will point out that when you mentioned it was a county project, you mean it was the History Museum's project, not this county.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna start on the north side there. So right now, you guys know already, you will sometimes shut down Jefferson Street and you'll have concerts there. We wanted to maybe enhance what that could look like. So if you go to the next slide there, basically create kind of a setup to, I'll just say plug and play, have the infrastructure in place where it's easier to connect equipment and things like that. Just some elements here that we're kicking around. You can see kind of a band shelter, just a low profile arch there to kind of mimic some of the arches that are in the architecture behind you. and some overhead lighting, but kind of reorienting the concert. So you've got the awesome backdrop of that building behind you, the old courthouse. This rendering is kind of filled up with people, so you can't see too well, but creating plaza area with pavements and maybe pavers and things like that to really facilitate that kind of what I would call a medium-sized concert. Okay, go ahead. This is just looking down Jefferson Street on a Saturday morning when you got the farmers market there. It just kind of shows you what that looks like with one of the proposed streetscaping sections that we have there. It just all kind of fits together a bit better. And then you can actually, in the background on the left-hand side, you can see that arch structure there. So the plan would be to not do things that look weird when you don't have a concert going on. So you're not gonna have big amplifiers and things that are up all the time. It's just not necessary. Okay, go ahead.
I see,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I see that it looks like the grass space is more on the same level of the sidewalk.
Yes.
Is there other like intentionality for ADA accessibility on the grass and in other spaces that you're building into?
Yeah, that's very observant. That is, and I didn't mention that, but yeah, we do want to, instead of, right now it's kind of on two different tiers, we want to kind of make that more gradual so that it's kind of more fluid, welcoming feel to get in there. And as far as ADA, every single thing that we do on this project, we're going to make sure that it's ADA compliant. That's a high priority for us.
Amazing, thank you.
So one of the things that the history folks in particular were excited about is video projection. And we have a couple of renderings here, but I can tell you it doesn't begin to do justice. If you've ever seen some of these video projection shows, they just blow my mind. It looks like the individual bricks of the building are going in and out. And this is something you can have different shows for different seasons, Christmas show, Halloween show, but we definitely talked about having a show that emphasizes the McLean County history and the tie to Lincoln and things like that. We want to, we're not doing this on every street, but around at least every side of the square except for Washington Street, we want to have a curbless street section, so it's much more. You're kind of blending the museum square lawn space and kind of making a plaza extending out from there, and it makes it real. When we decide to shut down, this section of Main Street, for example, or different things, it doesn't convey the sense of, oh, I'm standing in the street, should I be here? It just kind of helps with the flow there, makes it more pedestrian friendly. But yeah, the video projection, this is something that this could really have the potential to pull in people from all over the place. You could do a show highlighting Route 66 and people could come and pull their hot rods out in front of it, great photo op, things like that. Right, next slide. And this is we're just kind of playing around, having fun with it. And this is the chevron of downtown Bloomington on there. All right, next image. So then on the west side of the building, I'm sorry, that was the east side, so that was Main Street side. On the west side, looking at, one of the things we thought about is just trying to imagine all the different demographics, and in this case, younger families, what can attract different people, and these are just always a hit. Kind of a water feature type thing, and there's definitely a way to do this that's not hokey and contrasts with the stateliness of the old courthouse behind it. And a lot of thinking of a lot of big downtowns, they have something like this that can just look very classy, but the kids don't care. It's just as fun to play with this and run around through this as Fairview Park. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this one. Okay, I guess threw a lot at you guys. Before I get into the kind of the upcoming public outreach and what that looks like, I just want to make sure you guys have a chance to digest that, and if you have any concerns and yeah,
Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, no, go for it, sir.
I find it very intriguing, and as a guy that grew up in the household of an urban planning professor, a lot of this resonates with me on a number of levels.
That's
I
cool.
would just like to ask, though, in terms of environmental design factors and human ergonomics, reality is it's 7 months of winter in Bloomington, and I've noticed all of our pictures seem to indicate the 5 months that it's not winter, and how is that gonna play into your design philosophy?
Well, I was just talking to somebody about this. This was, talking about parking, and you had the conversation, well, what's the big deal? Have people walk a bit further when it's a nice summer evening. It's easier to have that conversation than what you're talking about. In this case, there is a reality that people are just less likely to be out walking around in poor weather. There are things that, East Peoria's got the Christmas light show, and if we could have a whiz bang video projection thing that's kind of a Christmassy thing, that helps to combat that. I think this idea is, if it's not on the cutting room floor, it's maybe finding its way there, but is it okay if I mention
Sure.
we, on that east side where we had the fountains, we were also exploring the idea of setting up a temporary ice rink during the winter. When you think of what do people do that's outside in the winter, it's a pretty short list. That's one thing that we thought we could do, and there's certainly, not just with that, but I suppose with a lot of these things, there's liability and maintenance and conversations that speak for you, Billy, but we feel confident that we can come up with intergovernmental agreements and things that are to the satisfaction of the county, that we can work through those things. But yeah, other than the ice rink and the Christmas show, I'm open to ideas you guys might have of how to kind of enhance the space in the winter.
Can we go back to that rendering with the water area, because that would be kind of the open space. So one of the conversations that we talked about the last time we met with Mike was leaving this at a ground level so that when the fountains weren't going, it would still be an open space that could be used for other activities. So I'm thinking, you could have a snowman or an ice sculpture building competition and things like that would be, obviously not in a blizzard situation, but things that would be easy to access from the street or to expend out in the street, because I think you could even do, like the sleigh rides and the different activities that would enhance wintertime. And I loved the projection on there because I just see endless possibilities on that side for very stately presentations. Even Memorial Day, we have the big Memorial Day ceremony. It could be very a moving presentation like that, or it could be something silly and fun like Frozen at Christmas time. So
Laser show.
yeah. So I really did like the idea. When we saw a rendering of the ice rink, I was one of the ones that had reservations about that, just because it's a temporary structure and I know how that goes, where they start to look run down or it gets damaged and there's the liability. So I really liked that they had kind of changed this to the fountain that could be a multi-use area, because we talked about that, like having giant games like the tic-tac-toe where they connect 4 games. Yeah, jump in, Billy. We talked about lots of ideas when we were brainstorming and having, you could have bags tournaments on this section. You could have all kinds of fun areas because it is level with the street and extends that ability to have activities like that in all seasons. So.
No, you never.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I have a couple.
Sorry, go ahead.
So have you
had any thought about security and keeping cars out of the yard, keeping cars out of that flat area? It seems to be like the museum's kind of been a magnet for public forums or protests or whatever you want to call that. And my concern is that you're just making more of a target now for somebody with a car or whatever to come through there.
So, sorry, to go along with that, have there been any discussions about permanently closing any of these areas to vehicle traffic? Like maybe just the museum square, or maybe just Jefferson by the museum, or even, the entire downtown area?
That's been coming up more often, the idea of closing down Jefferson, for example, all the time, so that it's just a pedestrian environment all of the time. If, when, like the images we had of being a concert there, we would do, I think right now the city's just kind of plopping some barricades down, but there's some removable bollards that come up and can drop down, and there's things that are there's maintenance nightmares versions of that, and then there's a way that you can do it that actually works. But that you would definitely want something like that when you have a big event.
City of Chicago parks snowplows, I think, to Jim's point, park snowplows on corners when they know that there's gonna be a big event like that. As a security feature,
Yeah. Whether it's bollards or if it's, something like Main Street, I don't think, although we showed it shut down for that one rendering there, I don't know that we would want to necessarily shut that leg of Main Street down all the time. So then you are talking about bollards that can raise, or there's, did a streetscaping project in Valparaiso, and they really liked the movable planters that they have on wheels, and they drop them off, and that seems like a little more work to me, but they liked those.
I think it's just something to keep in mind.
We talked at one time too, didn't we, about gates or some other, instead of the bollards having gates that would come down.
Absolutely.
I don't know where that all ended up, but
Yeah, in part of the future conversation, when we start to talk about public input and sort of taking this vision of what streetscape is to what it'll actually be, the materials and those types of things, that's part of where we would go. So it's still on the table for sure. It's something we do need to think about.
In regards to the public-private intersectionality of a business owner to the sidewalk, to the street, to the taxpayer that maintains those streets, is there going to be incorporated in the philosophy a way for businesses to use this exterior without unduly deriving profit while depriving the public of those spaces at the same time?
Yeah. That tension alleviates a lot when we create more space for everyone. Right now, Bill, you probably know better than me, but I think there are permits that are issued to businesses to do outdoor dining or to do sidewalk sales and do things like that. When you're thinking about it might be a little bit different around the square, but the majority of the streetscape project is going to be all the various streets up and down, and what we really are trying to just create enough space that we want those businesses there. We want them out and being able to thrive in that way, that in a way that doesn't conflict with it. It's just too narrow for people to walk through there. So that is the goal.
It's actually a conversation that Mike and I are having as we talk about, as you said, not the square so much, but as we design the rest of the downtown. We want to be careful to not to allow everyone to benefit, but not give any one business any extra undue benefit. We talk a lot about outdoor dining, and are there areas where we should do bigger bump outs? And on the flip side, I think to your question, is that fair to some of the other businesses who perhaps don't do food? And so those are the conversations that we're having now. Yeah, and hopefully we find the answers to them.
Excuse me, I love the focus on the accessibility and having the green space be street level. As we have even more of these really extreme rain events that happen, what kind of concerns or mitigations are we looking to put in place? Because now that would mean there's not like that thing that protects the history museum, right? So
Yeah, there are some unique drainage issues in this area, and it's kind of been in my mind as something, well, someday I'm gonna have to figure this out, is on Main Street especially, the east side is so much lower than the west side on the museum side, and there's little trench drains that aren't doing anything there right now, and there's gonna be some challenges with stormwater management there, but I don't think there's anything that's insurmountable. I think it's just being smart, getting the water, sending it away from the building for sure, and that'll be working with the grain rather than against it, cause it's so much higher right now. Those are details we haven't quite yet got to yet, but I feel very confident that we'll be able to manage those when we get there.
And then my other question, just is there anything that you foresee that would be a change, like a structural change, to the old courthouse itself that we would need to be aware of, or that would be helpful for us to kind of know?
No, definitely
so
not. Yeah, that's
safe and intact.
yeah. I mean, even if we wanted to, historic preservation, I just don't think we could do anything. There are, the only thing I would say, and actually, Dan, if you wouldn't mind going back a handful of slides to the top. Yeah. So some of these stairs are in different locations than they are right now. Those are just exterior stairs, so I know there are some exterior features like trees that are sacred cows. So like, for example, we originally, we had this connection coming, directly to this corner here, but there's some trees here that we want to make sure that we preserve. So we're kind of bending it around there. The steps, for example, we pulled some steps out here so we could create an area for you to set up when you saw the band playing, that would be in that area right there, and then dropping the grade to facilitate, people standing there watching the show or having chairs and watching. But the building itself, no, we don't plan on touching that.
I think I believe on the east side, there, as part of the wall, isn't that a war memorial?
Yeah. So we're gonna keep that. And actually, I apologize. This isn't showing up. This is showing as though we're taking some segments of that down, and that is not the intent. The rendering that we shows it accurately, and I'm gonna make a note of that because I don't want to upset anyone or stir anybody up without cause. This wall here will wrap around. We kind of wish there wasn't that wall for the reasons I talked about before. It's just kind of pushing people away instead of bringing them into the space, but there's plenty of we can get around that.
So that wall would remain then on the east side?
Yes.
Would the overall plan extend beyond or further south than Jefferson? Like, does it go up to Front Street, or does it kind of end?
Yeah, actually, if you back up a couple more slides, Dan, maybe one more. Okay, so this is, I didn't explain this. This was given to us. This is our project limits for this downtown project. So it actually goes clear down to Olive Street.
Okay.
And, we're kind of bounded Locust, what's south of Olive? I'm drawing a blank. But then, Prairie, and so we've got the downtown core, what's inside the Beltway, but then we're spilling out just a little bit.
Thanks.
Yep.
Has there been any consideration for restroom facilities for more people?
We've identified that that's something we need to figure out and talk about. I don't have a great answer for you on that one. I know, I think I know, during farmer's market, you can go in and use the bathrooms in the old courthouse, right?
And there's
Maybe nobody knows.
porta potties that nobody likes.
Right, and that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say, if, you know, you're doing all this beautiful landscaping, then you have a row of blue porta potties.
Right.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I've seen pictures Kent was showing me, there are really nice portable potties that you can bring in for events. I wouldn't be able to describe them in a way that makes any sense, but there are some ways of doing the porta potties a bit nicer, but it would be really nice if we had some permanent facilities. Especially if this is successful, there's gonna be a lot of people down here.
How can we as the county help with this? I know it's the city's bailiwick, but we'd sure like to help where we can.
Man, I've just been so thrilled at the reception we've gotten from everyone so far. We recognize, maybe I should have said this, it's, you know, very presumptuous for us to show up and show you our plans for your property. This is your property, not the city's. But I think there's just always been such great cooperation between the city and the county, and I think everybody sees that this is a rising tide that's gonna lift a lot of boats all over the place. So to answer your question, well, I don't know, Bill.
I would say, today we were really focused on the square, which as we start to develop further out and develop other blocks, we want to be able to come back to you and the county, the rest of the county board, and have a conversation about what we're doing and show you what we're proposing. Ask questions, but then talk about it. Like, really talk about what it is and direct folks to where they can go for more information. Like, that could be very, very helpful, because we do want input. We don't know, well, we don't know, first of all, but two, we gotta make sure that we're engaging the public. So help, if you would be willing to help us with that as we start to develop more of this project. That would be very helpful.
Maybe Dan, if you wanna go to where I left off, that's a good segue. Yep, there we go. So, pretty quick here, we're going to, okay, so we are, as part of our team, we're working with Clear Design Group. I don't know if you guys have had any interaction with them. They're actually a downtown business. They do videography, branding, website design. The top-notch stuff. They've actually done animations for the Tokyo Olympics and Monday Night Football, and so we're really excited that they are working with us to help attract, to help get people excited about this and spark interest. And the more people that are engaged in the public input process, the more feedback we're going to have, the better solutions we end up with. So as part of what they're doing, they've put a little teaser video together that's going to be released pretty shortly here. That doesn't really give anything away. It's just kind of more to come in September. And then in September sometime, we'll have what I've been calling kind of a hype video that'll show a lot of these concepts. The website is going to be kind of the central place that we try to direct people, that has a lot of information where we solicit feedback. We will have a public input meeting because we know there's folks that don't want to mess with the website, and that's fine. And then ongoing from there, we'll keep that website updated. Billy and I will go around the Rotary Club and stuff like that. But the public visibility of this thing's about to get real. So this is why we for sure wanted to meet with you guys and share some of this stuff first.
I think this has been great. Thank you so much for looping us in on the information, the project. I don't know about you guys, but the project looks really exciting
Yeah.
and excited to continue to hear additional information as things go forward. Just echoing what Member Tompkins said, if there's anything else that we can or should be doing along the course of the key milestones and like that, happy to keep in touch and assist in any way, shape, or form. But thank you for your time. Anything else that we can answer for you today?
Maybe rather than assuming, I feel like I'm hearing this, but maybe I just need to ask directly. I'm not sensing or hearing that there would be any objection when we do this public launch, if we show some of those images of the courthouse. Do you guys have any objection with us doing that?
Cool. Is that
Very comfortable.
A-okay? All right.
Great asset.
Looks like we got lots of head shakes.
Awesome, perfect. Cool. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you guys very much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Well
your time, and thank you very much
So
for
this is
for
the
coming
name of
also
the
and
app-
support.
this is the
Oh,
site,
yeah.
It's called Downtown for Everyone.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just real quick, this is kind of the branding of the streetscaping project, Downtown for Everyone, and we'll make sure you guys are connected and see like the teaser thing, but it's just so cool the way it ropes in all the different facets of downtown, and I just that idea of this is a downtown for everyone, that's kind of core to what we're trying to do.
This is for everyone, just in case any of you
Thank you very much.
are off.
Yeah.
Thanks for closing the streets.
She's right across the hall.
Yeah, I'm-
Yeah.
you know where-
There we go, there we go. Take one down, pass it around.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you guys so much.
excellent. Thank you very much.
Mike.
Alrighty, so that concludes item number 4 on the agenda with the downtown streetscape project, which brings us into number 5, departmental matters. First off for departmental matters is A, we have Mr. Gaither, Director of Facilities Management. Mr. Gaither, come join us. Alright,
Good evening, everybody.
good evening.
I'd like to apologize in advance, might not near as exciting.
Oh, it's,
Hard to follow, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's pretty exciting, so. Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, you're A-okay. I just wanna get this motion, or since we do have one action item today, under A1, the item to be presented for action is an amendment to the agreement for the boiler replacements. Might I have a motion to put this one on the floor for discussion?
So moved.
We've got a motion by Member Tompkins, do I have a second? Second by Member Byrne. Mr. Gaither, all to you.
Thank you. We're asking for a amendment to the engineering. Since our last meeting, we had some work done on our perimeter boilers in this building. The amendment is strictly for this building, the engineering on this building. We have 3 what are called perimeter boilers that make up the difference when it's exceptionally cold, and they also assist with the reheat in the summertime with the air to level the temperatures. We determined earlier this month that one of our boilers was cracked and deemed inoperable, and so it would need to be replaced. That leaves us with 2 of the perimeter boilers. Upon the further inspection, it was determined that they are reaching the end of their life expectancy as well. And since we were doing the main heat source, it made sense that we could possibly merge the 2 and gain some additional efficiency and have less boilers within the building. So that's what this request is for.
Excellent. Comments or questions? So in clarifying, we're just looking with this one, this is just to look for or requesting the funding for the engineering segment?
Yes, it would be an increase.
Yeah.
We are, the approval for the engineering was for the 3 buildings that we're looking at, but the increase is for an additional $6,200 for this building to remove those 3 boilers and incorporate that in the rest of the boilers for this building.
So long-term, we're looking at an efficiency here
Yes,
with this reduction.
yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. Additional comments or questions? Alright. All those in favor of approval of item 5A1, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Gaither. And then items to be presented for information for your monthly report and anything else that you have to share.
Thank you. If I tried to incorporate some additional pictures in some of our stuff. Sometimes it's easier to see in a picture than it is in an explanation. So we've done some focus this spring and summer on some beautification to the buildings. We incorporated some life plants into this building. We've had obviously some maintenance issues we repaired and some that we've determined need to be repaired. We focused on the beautification of the juvenile detention facility. You see that within the pictures. It had the landscaping had overgrown, and the sign to the building was, you couldn't see the signage. We've also incorporated recycled materials into the landscaping. If anybody's had a chance to look at that, it's actually recycled rubber mulch that has a 10-year lifespan. So actually over the lifetime, we're actually spending less, and we're using recycled materials. Then let's see. We had an electrical box. I think is probably the biggest one that we identified on the east side of the museum that was in very poor repair. So we replaced the metal on that, and that's been sealed, resealed, and painted, and a little more aesthetically appealing. I think that's most of the major projects on the monthly report. We've identified some additional drainage issues at the animal control, and we've actually, the picture on the first page shows the standing water after rain. It can't escape. It was a process of evaporation. So we've added a tile into that area now. I'll bring additional pictures to next month so that we can see the finished product there. The rain the last couple of days has not been able to gain access. Our tile does keep up. We got to test it the last couple of days. That was kind of fun. We had it in, but we weren't sure if it would take all the water from the hard surface, because the whole parking lot channels to those areas. So it was interesting to see and fun to watch it. It was actually, we calculated right, and it worked successfully. So.
Thank you for that. I was curious in seeing that picture at Animal Control if that was a photo that was taken after the most recent flooding that we had a couple months ago, or if this was just a traditional rain event. So this was just a whew. So thank you for putting the tiling in there to minimize that one. Also, absolutely love that we're using recycled materials that have a longer lifespan. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the stuff that your team has done. Other comments or questions for Mr. Gaither on the work that they've done over the last month?
Question for you. Had a couple of folks reach out about a sewage smell that was going on here. Apparently, in this building, apparently it's been going on for a while. Is that on the radar at all?
Yes.
Can you give me an update on that?
Sure. We have actually done a couple of repairs that we anticipated would correct it. Unfortunately, they haven't corrected everything. We moved some or rerouted some exhaust pipes that were close to our fresh air intake. It did alleviate in a couple of areas, but not all of it. We are in the process of locating a company coming into a smoke test at this time, so we can determine if maybe we have some broken waste vent lines in the walls.
You also replaced the pumps in two,
Yes.
is it two of the extractor pumps?
Yes, two of the waste pumps in the center of the building. We replaced those.
And then I have a follow-up question as well. I actually had a couple of my students, elementary students, come up to me after a farmer's market and asked why the clocks on the tower were all different times. I haven't checked it in a while, but if we're going to be making the museum a centerpiece of a new downtown image, then has that been looked into at all? What's involved? And I know when we went on our property tour, the gentleman who brought us up there was like, we don't know.
Yeah.
So is that something that can be looked at, or?
Yes, yeah, we can definitely look at that. I don't have a full understanding of it yet, and I apologize,
Oh, no,
but
shit,
I
yeah,
will
that's-
put it on my radar and we will start researching what we can do to get that remedy.
Report back to the third graders then.
That's great. Additional questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Gaither. Appreciate your report as always. And that brings us now to 5B1. Welcome, Mr. Steffa. So Mr. Steffa, Director of Parks and Recreation. We don't have any items to be presented for action today, but we do have Mr. Steffa's monthly report.
You're good, thank you.
Apologies for the tight quarters in here today. Mr. Steffa, anything to share from your monthly report?
Yeah, I have no action items. The only thing I wanted to kind of highlight was the very first thing in service leadership. It could be put under partnerships as well, is the ongoing long-term project we have with the City of Bloomington Water Department and the McLean County Soil and Water Conservation District. So we just had initial talks about this. If you've had a chance to look at the mapping area, I'm sorry, I should have put this in different color, the lettering. I didn't know. We're having some problems with our color printer too, so it kind of washed out. I apologize for that, but you can see we've identified 3 different areas that we would like to put into pollinator fields, and some of these fields are starting to get overran again with invasive species. So we'll probably go in and basically what it's called nuking the field, killing it off, basically everything, and then replanting the fields in pollinator seed. Number 2 on attachment 1, area number 2, there will be oh geez, I lost that. The wetland area, there'll be another wetland area put in there, which is kind of exciting. We do have a wetland area right now on the south end of the park. It's good for, especially for nature. It attracts a lot of different species of animals and amphibians and such. So one new thing that we are gonna do is put in on, attachment, I believe it's 5. Yeah, we're gonna put in what's called the saturated buffer. There is runoff on that field. The overall goal here for this long-term project is to provide better water quality for Evergreen Lake and keep the nitrates and the phosphates out of the water. So that's our long-term goal. We have been putting riprap around the lake, and I don't know if you know Jackie Kraft or not from the Soil and Water Conservation District, but she said it's her life's goal to riprap the entire shoreline of Evergreen Lake before she retires. But she and I'm working with her and Joe Darter now from the city, and this is just another way to keep the nitrates and phosphates out of the water, and just it basically is a sponge for those. We'll be working on that in the next probably year or 2. I'm sorry, were you gonna say something?
Go ahead.
No, okay. There are a couple grants. I believe I put that in my report here, that there's a couple there's the Illinois EPA and the US Fish and Wildlife Service that they're writing grants for, and hopefully we'll secure those. So does anybody have any questions on that?
I am curious, so since you mentioned that there are those areas that have the invasive species,
Mhm.
are all of the invasive species plant life?
Yes.
And so you mentioned, forgive the repeat of the term nuking it.
Okay, yeah.
So what are the the process to get rid of those, is it a burn, is it a chemical, and if it's a chemical, you know, what's the impact of the potential runoff of
Yeah.
that chemical on other areas that we might wanna maintain?
Sure. What we do is go in first. The species, the two invasive species are shrubby bushes, autumn olive, or some people call it Russian olive, and bush honeysuckle. It's been an ongoing problem out at Evergreen Lake. It was brought in the late '70s, early '80s as cover for the wildlife, and little did they know that it was going to become very invasive species. So what we do though is what the city will more than likely end up doing the legwork. They come in with they're either going to use a FECON machine, which is it's kind of hard to explain. It's got a head on it that rotates, and it's got teeth on it, and basically munches the plant or the bush itself. Or they'll get what's called a grappler, a brush grappler, and rip it out, but then they'll still go back and spray it with a chemical, and it's a chemical that we make sure Joe Darter's the head of the water department, so he's very aware not to spray anything that's going to do anything harmful to the water, especially.
And it won't be just like a broadcast spray over the whole area.
No,
You're gonna do
no, we'll-
specific stumps or spots.
Yeah, that will, yes,
So it's mostly gonna be mechanical.
right, correct.
Thank you. Additional questions from the committee? I did just have a follow-up outside of here,
Sure.
a curiosity on where we might be on the process of looking at the partnership with the I believe Illinois Beaver Alliance to make our plans. I know we had been holding off on any strategy because it was kidding season and like that, but just curious if we have an update for the committee on plans moving forward.
Yeah, I've been in contact with basically three people. Judy Ellinger, who's a wildlife rehabber in Livingston County. Katie Bryan, who is in Chenoa. And I just talked to, his name is Edwin Prom with the Illinois Beaver Alliance. Rachel Siegel is the president of the Illinois Beaver Alliance, but she's been out of the country, so Edwin Prom's kind of stepped in and temporary filling in for her. But in talking to him, there are my concern was where we want to go forward with this and what we want to do. I don't want to. I'm not into killing animals, so I want to try and come up with a solution that's best for everything. So, in talking with Mr. Prom, there are some grant opportunities out there through the Illinois Beaver Alliance and other similar organizations that kind of partner off the Illinois Beaver Alliance. So that's going to probably be more long-term. Short-term, we need to get out and identify some high-priority trees, and we'll do what's called wrapping with the fencing. And basically, it's a fencing with, it's 14 gauge wire that has 2x4 panels in it, meshing they call it. So that will be our next step. In October, and you'll have to excuse us because we're losing staff right now back to college, so we're kind of short staffed. We're going to be short staffed, but we'll get to the trees that have been affected. We'll get to as soon as we can. We've identified a couple of them that could be problem trees. So as soon as we get time, and it may be the middle of October before we get to them, That's basically when, after the middle of October is when our camping season really starts dying down. And we also stop taking reservations, so we can block off campsites so nobody can take them. Right now, the problem sites are booked pretty solid. So coordinating when people are gonna be there or not be there and trying to get these trees down, it's gonna be a hit or miss. But we're gonna get to it as soon as we can. Other than that, let's see, what else? Yeah, we just need, I put down here, we need to identify the high priority trees. That's our biggest concern right now. The beavers have targeted some oak trees. The oaks are our big concern right now. Because some of those are 50 to 75 years old, and they have rung a couple of them. So that'll be our high priority.
Can't you lead them over to this brush that we're trying to get rid of?
I wish I
Little red
could.
trail over there.
I wish I could. That's
Sprinkle some oak around the Crescent sage.
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things around the trees is a lot of bush honeysuckle and autumn olive, so it's going to be hard to get to some of these areas, but we'll do our best. And I'm more than likely, or Brad Wood, our operations supervisor, we're more than likely we're going to ask the public volunteers for help. So because I don't think we're going to be able to do it on our own.
Yeah, I was actually that was gonna be my follow-up, was when do you need volunteers, and can we get the word out as a county that we might need some volunteers to come out and help in the park?
It'll definitely be
sign
on
us
our
up.
website, it'll be on our
Perfect.
Facebook page, and we'll probably reach out to the Master Naturalist
Yeah,
group
be great.
to start out with, and there's some other groups I'm sure that would help.
yeah, let's get the scouts out there too. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
National Honor Society groups, lots of folks needing volunteer opportunities.
Yep.
Mike, I'm curious, and this may be purely anecdotal, that I know there was some beaver damage at Tipton Park.
I didn't know.
They had built a dam and flooded a whole area and took down a pretty big flowering tree right in the middle of the park there. So, if you had any conversations, any idea what they've been doing to mitigate?
No, I didn't. To be
It's
honest
nice
with
how
you,
you can see them swimming through the channel there.
yeah. To be honest with you, I didn't know there were beavers in town. So
It's right there at the corner of that GE and airport. You can see the remnants of the dam, and yeah, they're over there.
yeah, I'll talk to them. One of the other concerns, and I failed to mention this, one of the other concerns we have is Jones Pond, as you probably are well aware of, empties into the lake. The only thing that is allowing that to happen is a 3-foot culvert. So that was, after doing a lot of research, that was one of the concerns as well, is if that culvert got plugged up, the water could go over the road, and then we'd be in trouble. So there are mitigations to keep that from happening. And again, I've had discussions and doing my own research, things to keep that from happening.
Thank you for your research and all the discussions that you've had in being able to update us. I think the information is really helpful, so we know what our next steps are, and so we can be on the lookout for when we can all get together and volunteer.
Yeah, in talking with Mr. Prom, we're gonna have some further discussions soon. Yeah, I'd like to, and like I said, I don't wanna eradicate these things, but we gotta take into considerations, the dangers and whatnot too, but I think we can come up with a viable solution.
That sounds great. Thank you very much for your efforts and your
You're welcome.
actions. Anything else for Mr. Steffa? All right, that brings us along. Thank you very much, Mr. Steffa.
You're welcome.
That brings us along to 5C, with Administrator Taylor. No items for action tonight, but I believe you've got some fun information for information.
Yes, I do have one item to be presented for information and that was sent to you under separate cover. I also have copies if anyone would want a copy here tonight of our energy audit report. So the reports were very lengthy and it included a lot of extraneous information. So this is your summary of those documents. Tried to highlight not only what they recommended as that CDAC recommended for their energy efficiencies in 4 of our buildings. They selected the 4 buildings that have the most energy usage to audit, and those 4 were the Law and Justice Center, the 200 West Front Street building, the Government Center that we sit in right now, and then also our McLean County Nursing Home. And so the Law and Justice Center does include the building for the courthouse, the courtrooms, and the state's attorney and public defender and probation offices, but also the quarters that are occupied by the inmates in the jail. And so they divided up their recommendations by each building, and as you can see there, they had some similar themes across several of our buildings. We have included in your memo those ideas that we were able to incorporate into the 2024 budget that we will be proposing to you later this year. I think some of the easier energy savings that we can assume would be to the lighting upgrades and the lighting controls work. In conversations with Mr. Gaither, he believes that his staff can assume many of those projects. It will be a case-by-case basis in the different rooms, such as this one. It might be just as simple as changing out to LED light bulbs, which are more costly, but also use less energy and last longer. There might be other situations where he has to change out a ballast or change out the whole fixture, and so he will be doing those investigations of the different buildings and switching those out as we can. And so you have that work across all 4 of the buildings, and then additionally, they identified some extra ideas for the Law and Justice Center, and across all of the buildings, the building automation system replacement or upgrades were identified. Those would give you the biggest bang for the buck, as those were the most costly. But as you can see too in your graphics, we have potential incentives that we can apply for, those energy incentives, which we absolutely will be applying for. And so some of these projects will pay for themselves sooner, or even, with the incentives, we might even break even on a couple of those projects. So those are the plans. Fair enough. Be happy to answer any questions, or I also would like to give some credit to Tony Grant. He's been the lead on this project with facilities. So if you ask too hard a question, I will be phoning a friend in the back of the room for some assistance.
The high performance water fixtures piece, what all does that entail? I noticed that we have it, it's earmarked as something that we can do in the Law and Justice Center, and it's like one of our kind of top 3. It's also something that was called out for the nursing home, but we didn't identify that as one of the big things that we were gonna do there. And I was just curious, the differentiation on it and what it includes.
So the high performance water fixtures are what you would just think. It's the sink fixtures, the shower fixtures in the jail, and then in the nursing home in the rooms. So it's all those water fixtures that you would use mostly in a bathroom setting. And the ones that we have in the older section of the Law and Justice Center are older design. And the ones that were put into the jail design were meant for efficiencies at that time, but were not specifically called out for a high performance water fixture. So when we designed that building, that was something that was missed in or not considered, I wouldn't say missed, it was not considered at the original design of the new jail. And then, of course, we know the nursing home has some age on it, and all of those fixtures can be, could be replaced. However, that is a proprietary fund, a business fund, and so we looked at what would make the most sense right now for the nursing home. And so I would imagine that some of these other projects that were not identified in 2024 would be identified in later years.
That makes sense. I was curious if it was something to the nature of the nursing home and having to have a certain like water pressure or whatever to pass health code, but good to know that it's something we can look at in the future.
I'm hoping that some of the new fixtures and new lighting is the, the fancy automated work, but we'll
Yep.
see what we can afford as we look further into these projects, but would love to be able to wave my hand.
Other comments or questions on our results? Other than excited to see this show up in the work that y'all are in the midst of with the 2024 budget. This is exciting.
And lots of kudos to Tony and Joe
Thank
for
you.
their excitement in implementing.
Absolutely.
So I have no other property related information to share tonight, but I will skip ahead. This committee will be meeting back in this room for the September meeting. We've had an extension of the Diaz project it's gonna take a little bit longer than we thought. And so we will be utilizing this space for our next month's committee. And we will most likely be using the museum for 2 months. So I just wanted to share that and remind everybody.
Thank you for that update. All right. Any other business or communications other than knowing that our next meeting is September 7th, 2023?
Yes, Ms. Chairperson,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to commend both Mr. Steffen and Mr. Gaither for both their professional diligence and insight into preserving and maintaining our physical and natural resources. Their expertise directly benefits the citizens of this county, and I want them to know they're appreciated.
Yeah, that is a wonderful call out. Thank you very much for bringing that up, Mr. Tompkins. And thank you.
And Cassie and our staff also.
Yeah,
Well, I think you named it right.
absolutely. We've got a team that is second to none. Thank you very much for calling that out, and many thanks to all of those who contribute to the county. Other comments or questions? Thank you all very much for your service to the county. This meeting is adjourned. Have a fabulous evening.